All right, welcome today to TalkCommerce. This is our one-step checkout edition of TalkCommerce, and today I have Thien-Lan Weber.
Hi.
Why don't you
Hi,
go
Brent.
ahead? Hi. Want to introduce yourself? Tell us what you do, and tell us one of your passions in life.
Yeah. So I'm Thien-Lan Weber. I work at OneStepCheckout, a major Magento extension provider. A bit of myself, I've been working for over 20 years now. And when I look back, 1/3 of it was in retail, offline. So as a management consultant, a brand manager in cosmetic brands, and 2/3 in online and digital. So I worked at eBay, PayPal, and the last 5 years at OneStepCheckout. I was born in France, and I grew up there. And I also lived and worked in many other countries, including the US, in New York, in Taiwan, 12 years in Sydney, Australia, 1 year in Zurich, Switzerland, and 4 years in Oslo, Norway. So quite international. And for the last 2 years, I've been back to France. And I'm now in south of France, between Cannes and Nice, on the French Riviera, not far from the sea and mountains. So working remotely.
Yes, it sounds terrible. I feel so bad for you having to live there. I do appreciate, I think, I don't know when the last time we saw each other. Maybe it was in Meet Magento Germany in 2019, but you always showed up with Norwegian candy bars.
Yeah.
That was so fun, and I appreciate it still. That was great. Thank you.
Yeah, I still have some in my cupboards, Norwegian Kit Kats.
Kit Kats, yes.
Yeah, but made by the competitor.
Yeah, you're going to have to send those out as gifts now so they don't sit in your cupboard, or eat them. That's another idea.
Yeah, I'll send them out in the post because I still have a batch from back then, 2 years ago. So yeah, who wants them?
Is there a French version of the Kit Kat bar?
Kit Kat.
So
yeah,
got it. Great. Well, again, thank you for being here. And today, I think we have a couple of topics we want to cover. The first being checking out of your Magento store, which is always important. But I think, in relevance today, there was an open source letter that came out yesterday from the Magento community, the Magento Open Source Alliance, and talking about supporting the open source platform. So I'm not sure if you've had a chance to read it. I think you have.
I was one of the co-signers.
Yes.
So, yeah, I'm very happy. It's a perfect timing to talk about it. So for the sake of giving it a name, I'll call it MOSCA, so Magento Open Source Community Alliance. Some other people call it Mage OS. But yeah, I like MOSCA. We can do memes and fans with Moscow moves and stuff like that. So I guess where it all came from is that there's a general feeling about the uncertainty of the future for Magento 2. So future is always unpredictable, right? But this time we feel that it's kind of out of our control and the future doesn't seem that bright. I guess here what we see that is not very transparent. We don't really know what the roadmap is going to look like. It's not very clear. So as a community, I guess it started to be time to take action and say, now we want to be in control. We want to make sure that Magento 2 thrives for at least 2 or 3 years, and mainly because hundreds of thousands of businesses rely on Magento 2 open source platform. So it could be merchants, of course, but even then, they can choose other platforms, but lots of, agencies, freelancers, solution providers, extension providers like us, who are 100% relying on Magento 2. So that's why it's very important for us. And that's why we want to rally everyone in our situation to be aware that something's coming and start gathering awareness and interest.
Yeah, and I think this is a great initiative, and it's good that we all raise our hands and do make Adobe aware that there is a concern in this. And I think that Adobe isn't 100%, well, this is just my opinion, but I do feel like there's senior management making decisions about Magento now that don't reflect the community in whole. And I'm not sure if we can reflect, or we can look back and see what happened with, say, Experience Manager, something like that. That was an open source project that moved into Adobe Experience Manager, but certainly Magento has a life of its own. And I do feel as though the management at Adobe is overlooking the fact that they are making it vastly more complex, and therefore now alienating a large part of our base, which is merchants and community members, and making it more difficult to develop on and therefore launch a store on Magento.
Yep. What we feel is a massive focus, strategic focus on enterprise clients that align with Adobe's traditional clients. And therefore, mid-market SMBs are a bit left behind. And that's what this open source community is all about.
And I think there's a need then to also align with the Magento Association. How do you feel that is happening, and do you think there's going to be a success in that?
Yes, so it's very clear to point out that this is not like an alternative or contradictory to the Magento Association. The whole objective is that we work together and align our vision and mission. I guess here there are a couple of actions that are quite clear that we could do, and I guess we could do it a little bit faster than what we've seen coming out of the Magento Association. So maybe, yeah, different ways of doing things, but the vision and mission, I think, are pretty aligned. So how we do that could take a bit of time, but I need to make it clear that, you know, we are all working together, and same with XDN, the Extension Developers Network. So it's a separate entity, but again, the vision is that, you know, we are high quality extensions. Most of our business is done on Magento 2. So we need to make sure that the platform lives and is constantly maintained, and that there is still innovation going on there.
Yeah, I know at the very beginning you kind of mentioned you want to ensure Magento 2 stays around for at least 3 more years. I think the reality is that Magento 1 is still widely used and has been around for more than 10 years. And I think that Magento 2, regardless of where it lands after Adobe continues to butcher it, will be around for a long time. Do you think that this initiative is going to be something similar to the Mage 1 initiative and the Magento? I can't remember the other one. There's an open source version, or there's an open source fork of Magento happening as well on Magento 1.
Yes. So OpenMage LTS. So yeah, so the beauty of this initiative is that there's been a lot of benchmark that has been happening. So talking to these people who did a fork on Magento 1, talking to other open source communities as well, and trying to get best practices, asking, you know, OpenMage, you know, what would have you done differently, and taking all that to form a solid organization that can probably do more things more quickly, and have a lot more contributors, have more impact.
One thing that I have noticed is that a lot of this change, or a lot of these things are being driven from the European community. Do you think that is just because you're in a time zone and you're talking, or is it that the Americans aren't interested?
So from experience, I can tell that the Dutch Magento community has been one of the longest standing. So one of the first one and one of the biggest one. I think they have the highest number of Magento developers per capita. So yeah, so the people in that initiative, they come from mainly Germany and the Netherlands, where the community is very, very strong, very tight knit. And I guess that also comes from the fact that some of the leads in that initiative are the founders of Huva, which is a theme that removes a lot of pain points of Magento 2, mainly the user experience, but also the developer's experience. So based on that, it kind of came from that and their immediate connections and network, but very quickly they reached out to other countries, and yeah, with time zone, within 24 hours they readied the list of co-signing people on that letter, and lots of signing people. So yeah, on we could see when, with time zone, when countries were waking up, the boost in the signatures of that letter coming through. We're like, oh, it's time when the US wakes up. Let's see what happens. And we're like, oh, when is India waking up? So yeah, it's a bit like a Eurovision.
Yeah, I'm looking at the screen right now. It's up to 924 signers now, so that's good. So what do you think is the outcome of this? What is, so as a co-signer, what would be your expectation of this from Adobe? What response would you like to see?
So number one call to action is to continue to sign. We know there are thousands of people in the community, active people in the community out there. We still need to reach out to them and get them to sign. The more people, the more power we'll have in with that letter and that statement. And then second step for us is to get organized and run through a couple of actions and debates, have like a general assembly and agree. It's very collaborative. So even when we talked about the fork, there was a lot of we challenge each other saying, is it the right decision? We need to make sure that it's backward compatible. We don't want merchants to have to choose between the fork and, the existing Magento 2. So I think the more people, the more debates we'll have, and the stronger the solutions will come out of everyone's point of view and input.
Got it. Yeah, I think this is very exciting, and I think that the Hufa theme has sort of sparked the interest of the Magento community again, and now this is just going to continue some of that interest. And I think it's going to be difficult to decide when do you fork, and is it now or is it until they start splitting out services? I think one thing that at least it was made clear last year was that they weren't going to move to microservices. They wanted to do isolated services, but regardless of however they decide to split, if they split up Magento and the core, however they do it, it is going to make it more complicated. And deciding on when is going to be a big debate. So that'll be interesting. I did see that Yessa, where we had a green room conversation about how to pronounce his name. As I do on every episode, I have to go through a number of minutes on pronouncing everybody's name. But Yessa did a Martin Luther 95 Theses post this morning, which I thought was very interesting. And myself, being a Lutheran, can relate to that. And I do you think this is the time where we're putting our theses on the door of the Adobe headquarters and saying, here's what we want?
Yeah, I'm always pushing for the most collaborative approach possible. So, I like to take it slow and smooth and see, how we can come to working together, and where are the pain points, what how can we meet halfway, and take it step by step.
I think the biggest thing I always disagreed with is having to pay a little bit to get into Adobe heaven. That was a joke. Never mind. What I guess then from OneStepCheckout's point of view, are you still seeing strong growth in the Magento market itself as we move into sort of OneStepCheckout land?
So it's a very good question. In terms of installations, what we can see from data is that the market's probably around 40,000 live installations on Magento 2. If you compare that to Magento 1, where it was 250,000 at its heyday, it's much less. I guess the merchants there are bigger than on Magento 1. But the sheer number of them is smaller. So for us, when we have a model where we sell a one-off license, for us, it's less volume, obviously. And so last year, we could see the trend and starting thinking strategically and doing a bit of market research. And for the first time in 10 years, we thought, maybe it's time to launch a new product. So we looked at our options, and we looked at expanding to other e-commerce platforms. What we knew is that our big strength is that we know what merchants want in terms of checkout, what works for them, what converts clients into placing that order. And we started hearing demand from other platforms and from our partner agencies, building stores on other platforms, saying we need a one-step checkout for our other merchants. So we listened, we did a bit of homework to see how big the market was, the growth, and then we decided to, try it out.
So what other platforms have you decided to do?
So the quick win is to build a one-step checkout for shopware.
Okay, good. That's what I thought. Well, yes, that's what I thought you were going to say. So give us a little background on OneStepCheckout. Where did you start? Why did you do it? And tell us a little bit about it.
Yep. So the company was founded 10 years ago in the early days of Magento 1. I wasn't there yet. But what happened, the story that the founders told me is that they were building Magento 1 stores, and then one client called up and said, oh, that checkout process, it's 6 pages long. It's broken, you have to fix it. And they said, no, it's, that's the native one. And they say, yeah, but it doesn't work for me, you have to fix it. So they started working on a solution that collapses all 6 pages into one above the fold. And the client was happy, and they were like, oh, if that works for that client, it might work for all the other Magento 1 stores. And it did. So no matter, what the AOV, no matter what country they sell in, B2B, B2C, everyone needs to improve that checkout process, simply because the length of it makes it very hard for customers or consumers to complete their orders. But not that. Then after that, we started looking at research, usability research, that shows that there are other pain points that drive cart abandonment.
So moving into Magento 2, I think Magento decided to pare down the amount of pages that would be in the checkout. Do you have an idea of why they didn't choose just to go to one-page checkout in the first place? Is there a reasoning why somebody wouldn't want a one-page checkout?
From what I understand, it's a different view of things, different philosophies. It might work for some people, it might not for others, but we knew that there was a market for making it one page. And even though you think, from 2 pages to 1 page, the difference is not that huge, as opposed to 6 page to 1 on Magento 1. But what we could see is that research is strongly showing that one of the key factors for cart abandonment is that consumers don't see the order total upfront. So you place an item into your cart and then you press checkout and you see a first page with approximately the price, but then you don't see how much you're going to pay for shipping, tax, and so on. And only on the second page, you see all that. And then if you want to change, the shipping address, then you go back, you change it, and then you have to go back to the second page to see the new amount. And that's driving a lot of friction. And what we allow is to, at one glance, you change all your parameters, you change your payment methods, your shipping methods, and you see how much you're going to pay, because some people, that's how they buy. They have a budget in mind, and then, they make it work. I can go and pick it up if it's saving me $5 instead of shipping at home, things like that. So that's quite important. And so, yeah, we allow that for merchants.
And do you have any statistics? I'm sure you've done some testing on the checkout process and the not just cart abandonment, but just I guess it would be more around how many people start and don't finish as compared to people that actually finish the whole checkout.
Yeah. So global benchmark states 70% cart abandonment. So that means out of 10 people who place an item into the cart, only 3 place an order, and you lose 7 of them. And that's massive, because I see how much effort merchants put into driving people to their website, personalizing and doing all those clever things to get the right product in front of the right person, to have, vibrant images, high res, really add a beautiful description. But in the end, if that person adds all those items into the cart and then, doesn't check out, it's all lost. So a lot of investment wasted just because the checkout process is not optimal.
Yeah, and it's a great reminder to merchants on why the checkout is so important, and that you shouldn't fool around a lot with the checkout, and make it as optimum as possible. What are some of the things that you've learned over the years that merchants ask for as they go into the checkout process?
So the other big barrier and what's blocking consumers from checking out is what I call the registration wall. So how many times have you wanted to buy something, and then you click on checkout and there's a big page saying register now or log in, and you're like, oh, too hard. And so what we're allowed to do is to go straight into checkout and allow customers to create an account in the flow. So because they already have to enter the email anyway, they can just tick a box and enter a password. And that makes it very easy and smooth, and remove that big, wall, disruptive wall that says, no, you can't check out unless you register and give us all your details and, take all these steps. So yeah, that's a big pain point that we remove as well.
Yeah, that's a good one. And I can say from experience that there's many times I've been to a site and all of a sudden they say, well, put in your email address and create a password. And then, if you use a password service, maybe it's not available or something like, or whatever the reason is. And then after a while, you forget what you were doing. And then suddenly you're ordering ice cream. I think you're exactly right. Getting that quickly, getting it to the point of being able to purchase quickly is the most important step. Do you see continued innovations coming on how you can further streamline the checkout process?
So yeah, one piece of innovation is mainly, how we integrate with the shipping and payment. So on the shipping side, of course, with COVID, we see a lot of click and collect solutions that are rising, and also, lockers So shipping providers, they now offer to deliver in specific lockers in some places, just like Amazon. So we integrate with that, and it's been working quite well. And in terms of payment, I've been very interested into buy now, pay later. We see a lot of our merchants using those. And also, when you look at those websites, they all claim, massive improvement on checkout conversion. So I think as a result, if you combine that plus a streamlined checkout, it all multiplies. So I can see that trend from our own merchant perspective, but also in the news. So I don't know if you've seen, but Klarna, for example, they are valued at $45 billion. I think 6 months ago, their valuation was like 30 billion, which is massive. Another key player is called Afterpay in Australia, and they have been acquired by Square for $30 billion as well. Lots of Australian solutions actually are on the stock market, and they are acquiring many other players in other countries to be able to, it's what do you call that, external growth, and they can then cater for 10, 20 countries very quickly by buying the key players in those countries. And even I think yesterday, PayPal acquired a big player in Japan as well. So it's all happening. It's like the big, the high growth segment in payments right now, and we can see it, from different angles.
Yeah, and to be clear, the way the checkout process in Magento works, it doesn't matter if it's an Afterpay or if it's a Pay Now, or it flows in, and these things are all incorporated in OneStepCheckout. So you don't, as a merchant, you don't have to be concerned about which payment provider you offer. You could offer all of them, or offer one. So, I think, again, coming back to the way the merchant sees things, is it better as a merchant to offer a number of payment methods, or is it better just to offer one at a time, get them in and out?
So if you look at research, some consumer who drop off of checkout, one of the reasons they state is that the merchant didn't offer their preferred payment method. So I think it's important to know which one are preferred by your consumers or customers. And that varies based on your region, your demographic, and what you sell. And so, yeah, usually in bigger markets, credit card, PayPal are preferred, and you have to offer those. And then in Germany, for example, it would be Sofort. In the Netherlands, it would be Ideal. So each country is different, and you have to know those specificities. And I guess buy now, pay later, they are very strong with millennials. They skew higher in the younger market, a lot in categories like fast fashion or things that younger generations would buy. But now we can see other buy now, pay later brands like OpenPay, for example, who say my sweet spot are older people who have more disposable income and would buy a higher average order value. So furniture, healthcare, automotive, veterinary. So, based on category and who is buying from you, you might prefer one or the other solutions.
Yeah, I think there is mixed reviews on buy now, pay later. I know that I have to buy, I buy running shoes about every 3 months, and I can't imagine if I were to stack up, $120 or $150 times 4. And then, it does sort of perpetuate a cycle of having to pay for something later. Anyways, that's another debate. And then, so how do you see shipping fit into that? Are you seeing more and more merchants just offer free shipping nowadays?
Yeah, it's kind of the expectation. I think Amazon Prime, they set the trend a couple of years ago. So everyone's like, oh, why would I pay for shipping if I can get it for and shipping for free. And that's the number one reason for cart abandonment, when shipping cost is too high. And mainly, usually, if it's not zero, it's too high, right? Unless you have a very specific product and you can't find your running shoes from a retailer who sells it with zero shipping, or they add the shipping cost into the price. There's always that a trap.
Yeah, and I guess I should be clear that I usually buy my running shoes from a small running store. I don't buy them directly from the vendor, but I do research on the manufacturer, and I notice that they do always, I think they use a firm, whatever they use, but I do buy my running shoes from the small local store. And the reason I do that is so that you get some expert advice from that person that's helping you. And if you're a new runner, it's always good to get a gait analysis. Again, way off topic. So back to shipping. I think that what we've seen, and we're big in, say, we do a lot of business in Mexico. We've seen that the cost of shipping is quite high. So it is difficult for some smaller merchants to offer free shipping. Have you seen, or maybe spinning back on that, what has been your growth, or what have you seen for growth in different markets for your extension? But in general, have you seen certain markets growing faster than other markets?
What we saw is a shift where on Magento 1, we had thousands of Dutch merchants. And now with Magento 2, we have a bit more US merchants. So I guess, yeah, it's the nature of the platform and how big merchants are. But yeah, apart from that, we always have the same top four. So US, Netherlands, UK, Germany. And we haven't seen any, other country really making a difference.
How about India? Have you seen India come up on Magento itself?
Not among our customers, and maybe because it's maybe it could be due to our price positioning. So
yeah, I think from the Magento, from what used to be Magento, but now Adobe Commerce licensing, they did have a lot of resistance in paying for that license and the cost of that license as it compared to the local economy. Back to, I guess, coming back to Adobe, do you think some of this divergence is around the fact that people might choose open source versus Adobe Commerce? Or do you think there's something bigger inside of Adobe that's driving it to be more of an enterprise product?
I guess there's also something around, Adobe Cloud. So Adobe Cloud is enterprise. So there's definitely that strategy to offer a whole integrated experience with all the other Adobe products. And so, open source doesn't really fit into that bigger strategy. It's definitely not the same target audience, not the same clients. So yeah, there's a bit of a mismatch there.
Are you seeing, do you see an equal amount of open source clients versus Adobe Commerce Cloud clients, or just regular Adobe Commerce? Would you know the difference between the two versions if you had an install?
You mean for when we sell licenses?
Yes.
Yeah. So we have different products for Adobe Commerce and open source. And I would say maybe 5% would be enterprise and 95% would be open source.
Okay. And so I guess from the open source side, then do you see longer term clients or are clients? I guess what I'm trying to say is are you seeing a drop off rate in any one of these? Like, I'm sure that at some point they come back for a renewal on the licensing. Do you see that some clients are staying around longer? They're on open source and they're happy with it. And then maybe on the enterprise side, they decide, oh, there's another product that works better.
So it's interesting because our license is a one-off. So, they buy it once and then we don't know if they continue or not, unless, I go and check the site and see if it's live or not. Having said that, we now have introduced a support and update plan where it's a yearly fee where they can have updates, and we release new versions maybe 4 to 6 times a year. And originally, we didn't have a very high adoption rate of that product, but now we see that it's growing, and maybe up to 50% of our initial orders have the customer, the merchant add that support and update plan, and we still renew a lot of them, so that's very encouraging. And I guess it's because of the innovation that we add. So we add new features, we add new compatibility as well. And now with Huva, when we announced that we are compatible with Huva, we had a lot of response saying, "Oh, that's fantastic, I want to see that." And then within 3 weeks, one of our partners said, "Oh, look, we have a live site with Huva and OneStepCheckout." And we looked at it, we're like, wow, it's so fast and the experience is amazing. And the agency said, yeah, it only took 3 weeks to build, and that was amazing. So, it's picking up again. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's good. How about shopware? How do you see that fitting in now?
So when we did a bit of market research, we saw that it's growing, so 30% year on year. So that's what we're looking for. We don't see that type of growth rate with the number of Magento 2 installations. The base is quite small, but it's very favorable to us because a lot of developers come from Magento 1. So they know our brand, they know our product, and they know what benefit we offer. So we don't have to recreate the wheel and say, we are OneStepCheckout, this is what we do, this is why you should use us. They know straight away, and they even say, why don't you launch OneStepCheckout for shopware? So, when there's demand, you're like, you already sold licenses before you built, so.
Yeah, I just saw Ben Marks at RetailX, and he was touting OneStepCheckout, or not OneStep. He was touting shopware and OneStepCheckout, of course. So I'm also excited about this product and how it's going to come to the US and how we can start using it from a merchant standpoint. Are you seeing shopware mainly in Europe still?
Definitely. So even the community, I went to their community day 2 weeks ago, and they probably 60% of the chats were in German. So lucky I picked German at school, but still very, very German focused. They're trying to internationalize, and I'm sure Ben Marks will help. It's getting there, but I guess they need a lot more pillars in the US, for example. So,
Yesterday, I just got my shopware thank you box for attending the community day, which was full of German food, which was very exciting. No Norwegian Kit Kat bars, which I was disappointed about, but I did enjoy their community day, and I thought it was very well put on. I particularly enjoyed the baby. I can't remember the name of the company. They have baby for me or something. It was a baby company.
Baby One, something like that.
There was
a one.
Yeah, Baby One. And the two siblings were presenting on their store. I looked up to try to tweet, and they don't have a Twitter handle, it's quite funny. I think that I know it's an older company, but that they hadn't moved into the Twitter sphere, and I wanted to tweet about them. But anyways, I enjoyed that shopware day, and I really look forward to having a day where we can do it in person again.
It's funny what you say about Twitter, because I think it's a Magento bias. Before joining the Magento community, I had no interest in Twitter. I didn't understand how it worked. I had an account just to have one, but I only started using it because of Magento, and most of my tweets today are Magento. So I think outside of that community, it's not that used.
I think Shopware has a unconference coming up. Is it? Yeah, April of 2022. Are you looking forward to this event or events like that in Europe again?
So is it a in-person event?
Yeah, I believe they've announced like Shopware Unconf or something like that in Cologne, which
Any in-person event, I'd be very happy to attend because I've been missing it so much, and I'm sure you have too.
absolutely. Yeah, I went to a couple of events in Texas earlier in the year, and it was fun to kind of get to see people again. Retail X happened in Chicago here, which is traditionally around 20,000 people. I think there was 1,500 that showed up. So the people are still a little hesitant about joining some of those events, but it is always good to there's value in seeing people in person and talking and learning more about what's happening, and finding out about what your other competitors are doing, finding out about what are the newest trends in the industry. So I guess speaking about that, what do you do? How do you keep up with what's happening nowadays in our industry?
Twitter. LinkedIn, I see lots of stuff on LinkedIn. Actually, today I saw a post about what was it? Like a talk between Amadeus Payments, PayPal, Klarna. So I don't know if you know that company called Amadeus. It's like a big travel company, and I know it because it's based where I live, so it's the biggest employer in my area, and basically they are very big in travel, so they sell to Expedia and all those travel agencies, and now I see they're doing payments, so I'm like, so I dig and I try and understand what's happening there. So yeah, on my LinkedIn I see a lot of things in e-commerce, payment, fintech happening, and yeah, I tend to read that, and then from there I go and see other articles and find out that way. But yeah, I forgot to ask you, what are your thoughts about Shopware being based in the US and close to US merchants?
I think there is definitely a need for something like Shopware in the US. There is, I think the trend is to go to a SaaS platform, and I think SaaS can't do everything you want, and especially as you look at checkout, the checkout is such a place where people want to do what they want to do, and there are so many niches there for checkout. And I think Shopify really controls your checkout, and it doesn't allow you to do a lot. BigCommerce is a little bit better. They have an SDK at least. But if you really want to dig in and do something in your entire site, you need to have a open source platform that allows you to do that. And I think what we've seen is Magento has become more complicated. It is very difficult to hire people and get people interested in even learning about Magento, unfortunately. And then what we've seen again from Adobe is that they're pushing it up market, even if they decide or state that there is an SMB version or SMB play for Adobe Commerce. The reality is that it does really work well for bigger merchants. It works great for small merchants too. Let's face it. I think that the messaging though doesn't play well to those, and and Adobe needs to do a better job of saying that this is still an easy platform to use, and it doesn't have to be complicated. I think part of it is that the fact that a merchant can do anything, suddenly it becomes complicated because there's a developer who says, I can do that, and then suddenly it becomes very expensive. But to answer your question about Shopware, I think some of those things are made easier to do in Shopware. The complexity isn't there like it is in Magento 2. So there is a need for that type of solution here for the smaller merchant, for somebody that wants to control their entire experience and doesn't want to have they don't want to rent their code or rent their store They own the store and they can take it with them wherever they go. So I'm excited about it. We are going to make a commitment to becoming a Shopware partner as Magento, and working on trying to get some merchants in the US is a big part of that. And I would add on that we would work on getting merchants across all of the Americas, all the way down to Argentina or even Antarctica, if we could get our first Shopware merchant there.
Wow. And so what would you see the main barrier to selling the Showboat platform to a US merchant?
The only barrier right now is just education. I think just getting people educated around what Shopware is and how it can help them. And I think that's just up to every agency or developer and educating the client on why that's a good solution for them. One thing we don't want to do is take away from a merchant who's decided on Adobe. We are committed to Magento, but the other reality is that we shouldn't be putting every merchant in every platform because somebody sells a platform. So the worry is that if you are a Magento only platform or a Magento only agency, then the only solution that you can give a merchant is Magento. And there is other reasons why merchants need other solutions. So maybe if somebody wants to just get something launched in 7 days and they don't want to deal with any maintenance, and then they're going to take their store down in a year or something, maybe BigCommerce is a better solution for that merchant. Or maybe they are only doing a couple $100 a month in the beginning or something. There's all kinds of reasons, and there's all kinds of merchants, and there's different merchants for different platforms. And we don't want to be that agency that says, okay, you're a merchant A, that you need to be in Magento, and you're merchant B and you need to be in Magento. And we want to be ready to offer a solution for the merchant rather than saying this is the solution they need. So I believe Shopware fits into that.
Fantastic.
So we have a few minutes left. Why don't you tell us a little bit about what you're doing, or what would you give some advice to a merchant right now in terms of making their store better?
What I like to do, and we do that a bit on the OneStepCheckout blog, is to show examples of Magento 2 stores using our products. And often I come across, lots of categories and lots of merchants who sell the same thing. Like, for example, home furnishing, home products. We have tons of them selling lights, selling fireplaces and home decor. And I guess it's interesting to look at your competitors, to see at other people who are selling the same thing in other markets and get inspirations from, what they do well, what you think you could, leverage, test, and, see what could be working for you. I think that's always quite interesting to look at others, and even outside of your categories. That's even better innovation.
Yeah, and I would love to put the link up for the store that's running Hoofa and OneStepCheckout. So we'll make sure that gets onto our show notes after we record this. All right. So as we finish our conversation today, I always give people a chance to do a shameless plug about anything they'd like to plug. So do you have anything today that you would like to promote?
So yeah, we didn't spend time on my passions.
Yeah, go ahead.
So some people might have seen it. I'm a drummer in a rock band, and I'm playing 90s songs, and that's something that I've been super excited about for the last 2 years. The first year we had COVID, so I couldn't play much, but last year I was able to put together a mini concert in a bar, and that was so exciting. That was my teenage dream. So so that's so I invite you to have a look at our YouTube channel. My rock band is called South Attitude, And so if you Google South Attitude in YouTube, you might find some Bollywood stars or whatever, but try South Attitude Rock. And then you might say, oh, I can give you the link. That would be easier. And yeah, we had a couple of cool songs, and I'm quite excited about it. We only have, 50 viewers. So if I can get a couple of hundreds more, that would be
You'll
very
soon have 51.
motivating.
You'll soon have
Thanks.
51.
And your wife and your daughter.
Yes, of course. And my son.
And your dog.
Yeah, 2 dogs. I know that a couple of you, well, I don't know when, one of the Imagines, one of them when there was at the M, Ben Marks and a number of other people in the Magento community did a rock band at Imagine, which was very fun. My family is musical. My daughter is a singer and my son is a guitarist, and my wife was in the choir at church, and I play the piano. So we are we're always always interested in musical stuff. So that's great. I'll make sure we get that link put on the show notes as well. And I love that. That's a passion. I noticed there's a lot of developers that are piano players. There must be some connection between the math. Yeah, the math and inside of being a pianist and the math and being a developer, something like that. I have no idea.
Just the keyboard, I think.
Maybe, yeah. I was trained as a classical pianist, and I left the piano when I was 16 because I wanted to play jazz, and my teacher said, no, you have to play exactly what's on the music. And I said, okay, I'm not going to do the recital. And that was it. And later in life, later I did learn how to sort of mimic a guitar on the piano. And so I just started playing with just the keys and whatever. It was fun. Anyways, so I've enjoyed the experience of growing and learning. And just like we grow and learn in our e-commerce community, I think it's always good to grow and learn in something other than what you're doing for a job. So I applaud you at being a musician in a rock band. That's fantastic. So we look forward to seeing you at T-Mobile Arena as part of a rock band for the Adobe Summit in 2022.
Sure. Can't wait. I'm practicing already.
So tell us, as we close things out, your role at OneStepCheckout. What is your official title there?
CMO. So basically, I do sales, marketing, lots of partnerships. I do main things except for coding, to be honest.
Yep, same here. I do many things except for coding. I have done coding, but everybody prefers that I don't do it. So. Well, Thien-Lan, I really appreciate you being here today. Thien-Lan is the CMO for OneStepCheckout, and it is the leading checkout provider for Magento and now Shopware. Thank you for being with us today.
Thank you for having me. Have a great day.
Bye.